Welcome today, guys, to free online training sponsored by Space Coast Pool School. Kind of put this together. I met Cindy. I've known Cindy for a while, but we met at the pool show initially. She came out when I used to work for the health department, probably a decade ago now, Cindy?
Probably.
Came out and you remember that? We did that as a live training online. Remember how fun that was with one of those webcams that sits on top of your computer monitor? And we tried to move it around so we could have her so this is back trying to live stream a training back when it was way more difficult than it is now, since we have Zoom. So I've known her for a while, dealt with Stenner pumps quite a bit on doing commercial pool inspections with the local regulatory authority down here in Florida. A lot of the new pools are being built commercially with Stenner pumps on them now. There's been a big trend for a while now to go away from stabilized chlorine to an unstabilized chlorine product. Anybody who's just joined us, can you please mute yourselves? So I'm Lauren Broom with Space Coast Pool School. I am a provider for the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance Certified Pool Operator courses. I offer in-person classes anywhere in Florida, as well as private classes in Florida. I also offer the 100% virtual online CPO course in 2 versions, usually every month. So if you have any questions, there's my website, spacecoastpoolschool.com, or you can call me, Lauren Broom, the instructor, and me who's hosting this training for you guys today. I thought this would be a really good training. Cindy is a wealth of knowledge. So she's our presenter today, Cindy Scheiber with Stenner Pump Company. And guys, take advantage of having her on here today. She's going to talk about Stenner pumps, probably preventative maintenance, that's got to be done. That's the biggest downfall I ever saw as a pool inspector, that the preventative maintenance wasn't done on these Stenner pumps. When you put them in, you have to do what she says you need to do, or it's gonna fail. It's a great piece of equipment, but you still have to maintain it. And they always have great information available to everybody that allows them, that they provide to you. Plus they provide training as well. So please, everybody, before I hand this off, I'm gonna mute everybody really quick. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm going to mute everybody before I hand this over to Cindy Scheiber here. I know there was a few people that just came on. I want to make sure everybody's on mute except for our speaker. All right, Cindy, it is all yours. Go ahead and tell us all about Stenner pumps.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Of course, I don't have the advantage of getting to see you guys in person. I don't know, who's here or if I've gotten the chance to work with any of you guys before. Lauren, do you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so of course, I'm from the Stenner Pump Company. I work directly for the factory, and I always like to give an introduction as to who we are and what we do. Of course, we manufacture peristaltic metering pumps, and that's what we've done since 1957. All we make is peristaltic metering pumps. So today we're going to cover a full overview of the company, as well as an introduction to what is peristaltic technology, how to select and identify your pump, certainly the installation and maintenance. This is going to be a pretty thorough training. And then a product review. We've actually got some new products that I wanted to make sure to introduce you guys to today. And then it says a test, and that's really, here we're not really going to do a test because it's virtual. So mostly that's going to be questions and answers that you guys have. We'll definitely have some interaction there at the end. So we are based in Jacksonville, Florida, and that's where we've been since 1957. We have 2 other locations you may not even know about. One is up near Albany, New York, and one is out in Kansas City. And everything is manufactured here in Jacksonville, but we actually have those 2 other locations that do assembly work and shipping to cut down on ship times to those regions of the country. By the way, we also have an international department here in Jacksonville, and they ship containers of these pumps all over the world. So I've offered to go to Italy for training. They have not sent me yet. I don't speak the language. So this is an example of the original prototype that's on display at the factory. By the way, guys, we love to host you guys, the actual customers. If anybody is in Jacksonville or coming to Jacksonville, or you want to make a special trip, let me know in advance and I can arrange for you to have a factory tour. So it takes about 2 hours. And if you let me know in advance, I can make sure we get somebody like the president of the company does a really good tour because he knows all the ins and outs of the equipment. But it's really fun to walk through and see how we make these things from raw materials. And you can see the little Stenner Museum, which is kind of a hallway full of our original prototype pumps and all the iterations throughout the years. So it's kind of cool to see. But there is the original prototype that Mr. Stenner developed in the 50s. It's come a long ways since then. So of course, commercial pools is a large part of what we do still to this day. But nowadays we are in a lot of other markets and applications, such as horticulture. One of the biggest growing markets right now is actually marijuana grow houses. They use a lot of Stenner pumps for, fertigation, pH adjustment, things like that. Also a lot in the wineries, food processing, places like Anheuser-Busch, Coca-Cola, Campbell's Soup. They use a lot of Stenner pumps throughout their processing facilities, even vegetable washes. Some other fun applications are like Harley-Davidson. They use a lot of Stenner pumps at their factory in Pennsylvania, and they use them for pH adjustment for all the chrome plating baths that they work with. And then a lot in cooling towers, cooling tower treatment, to help prevent Legionnaire's disease. They do a lot of chemical dosing with Stenners for that. Animal health is one of our largest markets nowadays. So we do a lot in poultry, dairy, and swine. And certainly there's a lot of use of Stenner in the drinking water and the wastewater world as well. So you never know where you're going to run into a Stenner pump, but not just in commercial pools. They're all over the place. So this is a good introduction to Stenner and gives you kind of a sneak peek at the factory. Bear with me. My apologies. I'm not sure why we froze up. So we mentioned that peristaltic pumps are all that we make. And I just wanted to explain really quick what peristaltic technology means. So the action of the roller assembly pinching the tube up against the case, that creates a suction and gives us our liquid lift. So it's like a snake swallowing a mouse or your own esophagus and intestines. Those rollers pressing the tube up against the case create that suction, and that's how we move the liquid. So with that technology comes some really good benefits that you guys need when you're pumping gaseous solutions, especially. So these pumps can handle gaseous solutions like chlorine. They also pump things like hydrogen peroxide, beer, anything that's bubbly. The liquid will just move right through. Those air bubbles cause no damage to the pump and won't cause it to vapor lock. These pumps are also self-priming up to 25 feet, so they don't have to be installed right on top of the solution tank. Sometimes it's more beneficial for it to be across the room or even outside the room. You've got 25 feet to move there. They can operate dry. So as you know, it's one of the few things in the pump world that you can run dry. So if you have a tank go empty, there's no negative effect to your Stenner pump. It just means you're not drawing solution, of course. So drop in your new tank and it will prime itself right back up and put itself back to work. So certainly it can handle viscous fluids, anything that's like syrupy, thicker solutions, the Stenner pumps can handle. And of course, we have our toolless tube change. So we're going to certainly do a thorough review of how to do a tube change today. And first of all, how do we identify and select the right pump? So you see pictured there is a double-headed Stenner pump. By the way, we do make double-headed pumps. Those are for larger volume outputs, such as up to 170 gallons per day. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a quick visual that we do make double-headed pumps. You can even convert a single to a double-headed if you ever needed to. But on to how do we know what pump we've got in the field? You can always take a look at the label on top of the pump. And this label gives you the full model number, the full item number, and then I hope you guys can see my arrow here on the screen. It has the serial number. So, you know, this is a very good helpful reference if you're not sure what you're working with. Of course, this model number, we're going to show you on the next slide how to break down those numbers. But while I have this label up, I wanted to show you guys how you can read the serial number. The first 6 digits of your serial number is a date code, and that's what date your pump rolled out of our factory. So if you look at this example, 12-11-12, this pump was manufactured December 11th of 2012. So, you know, when it comes time to help your customer decide should this pump be sent for repair or is it time for a new pump, you know, if you've got a really old pump, it might be time you've gotten your life out of it and it might be time to replace, but you can tell if it's only a year or 2 old, maybe it's time to just get it repaired. So those are kind of helpful notes to know. By the way, we always offer a 1-year warranty, and that covers any kind of manufacturer defect. We have very tight quality controls at our factory, but you know, they are still humans there. I know them all here in Jacksonville. They're great folks. And we really have a very low warranty return rate of less than 0.25% of all of our pumps worldwide ever come back to the factory for warranty review. So certainly if anything happens out there in the field, we want to be able to help you directly. We encourage you to call us directly. The phone number is right there on the pump label. So give us a call. We'll walk you through the RMA process. It's very fast and simple. And again, for any manufacturer defect. It does not cover tube ruptures or, you know, if you drop it in a bucket of chlorine, something like that, that's not covered, but certainly any kind of manufacturer defect. Now here's how we do the item number. So I'm just giving you an example on this slide. I don't expect you guys to understand all the tables that you're looking at, but I wanted to show you the breakdown of the item number and just get you a general familiarity with it. I hope you know you are always welcome to call us directly. We can always help you build item numbers, identify which pump you're working with, identify part numbers, things like that. Don't feel like you're out there on your own for sure. So this output chart here, most of you all in the pool world are going to be in what we call low pressure, no more than 25 PSI. So just for an example, let's look at our smallest output pump here of 3 gallons per day. The item prefix number is 45MJL1. And what that item number breaks down in Stenner world, what it means to us is it's a 45 motor, J for adjustable, L for low pressure, and 1 for the tube size. And we're going to dive deeper into your tube size output options here in a second. But you would take that number in the green box up here, the blue number, and put it in the green boxes down below. If you wanted a pre-built tank system, you would choose your tank size and add that code there. Most of you are just going to start going on after we've got our item prefix. We're going to go ahead and choose our voltage is next, A or a B here. What color suction discharge you want. tubing, and then an S always at the end for Santoprene, and that's our tube material that's in the actual pump head. So Versalon is used for petroleum-based products. You guys will never need that in the pool world. You'll always be an S at the end. So again, I don't want you to memorize that or anything. Just know there is a breakdown to the alphabet soup that you see in the item number, and we are definitely helpful. If you call us, we can always guide you through that process. Certainly our catalogs are downloadable on the website and things like that. If you want your own, we can always help you with that as well. So there are multiple tube sizes available. So we've got tube sizes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those can all handle low pressure, no more than 25 PSI. Then for high pressure applications, and really in the pool world, the only time you're going to run into that is if your pumps are installed below grade. So maybe you've got a condo building with a pool up on the roof and the pump room's in the basement, something like that. That would certainly create a high pressure scenario, but that is the rating of the water pressure in the line that you're injecting into, and most of you are going to be in that no more than 25 PSI on your return line. So high pressure rated tubes are 1, 2, and 7. Those are the only ones we have that can go all the way up to 100 PSI. But for the bulk of you guys and the most of your applications, you're going to be focused on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are a variety of outputs available to you. It is a universal pump head, so you can always choose, your output, what application you're working with, how much output you need. Even if you have a 45 motor with a number 5 tube, that's a 50 gallon a day pump. If you wanted to put that on a spa, that's kind of a high output, right? So I can actually install a number 1 tube on that, and we could lower our output all the way to 3 gallons a day, up to 3 gallons a day. So a lot of output options is really what I want you to take away from that. And again, we can always help you size properly to your application. So locate the number on the tube fitting. We actually mold these. They're showing it as a very small number on here, but it's actually a pretty large number now on these molds that if you're not sure, the ink wears off quickly along the body of the tube. So when you pull out an old tube, if you're not sure what size you're working with, refer to one of those tube fittings and you'll be able to see a number built in on it, and it'll tell you exactly what it is. So there are optional section discharge tubings. We saw that in that building your item number section. So 1/4 inch is available as well as 3/8. 3/8, we have that as an option for folks that are pumping thicker solutions like polymers or syrups. But it's really not necessary for what you guys are working with. Maybe you already have an installation set up for 3/8. That's okay. It's not wrong or bad. It's just, you need the 3/8 section discharge tubing. It does come with an adapter nut to bring everything down to 1/4 inch, but it's really your preference if you want 1/4 inch or 3/8. It's also available in white or UV black. Certainly, you always want to use black section discharge tubing when your pumps are outside, because we've got to make sure that that has the UV inhibitors built into it. If you put your white section discharge tubing outside, it's going to crack and pinhole on you pretty quickly. So you've got to use the black section discharge tubing outside is really the most important thing there. So again, a breakdown of how we can change our outputs just by changing out our tube sizes. So we're going to learn in about 2 different motor speeds here in a second, but I wanted you to see this quick reference chart. So here we've got the 45 series motor and the 85 series motor. So these 2 pumps, they look just the same. They cost the same. It's just a matter of 2 different gears in the gearbox that give you these different outputs. So the 45 series runs slower at 26 RPM. The 85 series is much faster at 44 RPM. So that's why with that same number 1 tube, you get 3 gallons a day on the classic 45, but that number 1 tube on an 85 motor, you get up to 5 gallons a day. So likewise, on the number 5 tube, you get a 50 gallon a day on a 45 motor, but you put that number 5 tube on the faster one, you get 85 gallons per day. So a lot of different options there with your motor speed as well. So this is the difference between the 2 motor speeds, the 45 series, and you see it referencing the 45 and the 100 series here. That's our double-headed option. So the 85 series and the 170, so that's a single head or a double head option. But the phenolic gear and the metal reduction gear are the only two gears that are different. That's what makes a 45 and a 45 and an 85 and 85. It's just the size of the pinion on top of the gear that helps us determine that motor speed. You can see it's just a little bit different in size on the phenolic and the metal reduction gear. So that's how we change the motor speed. So technically, if you had a 45 and you needed more output, you could order the 85 series gears, swap that out in the gear case, and you've made yourself an 85 motor. So remember, as you're working through this classic series pump with me, this is all fancy technology from 1957. So it's a very simple mechanical pump that you can always tear down to the bones and rebuild if you choose to. So of course, you can make a single head, a double-headed pump by ordering a longer shaft and an adaptable pump head that comes with rivets on the front of the pump head here, so you can attach that second pump head. So you can even take a single and make it a double head. Those are awfully kind of rare, but you know, if you've got a larger commercial pool operation, then you certainly might need a double-headed pump if one pump isn't doing enough for you. And hang on, if you do have larger volume outputs out there, I've got a brand new pump I want to show you guys at the end of this session today here. I'm going to give you an introduction to that. So here we're going to move into our training part of it, where we're going to just discuss installation, as well as a breakdown of the feed rate control and tube changes, as well as preventative maintenance. So I'm going to go ahead and start this video. I apologize, it is a little bit dated, but it gives a good overview, being that we are doing this virtually. Another thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that we offer free certified technician training. So that means I will come to you, I will come to your office. We can set up the training. It takes about 1 hour to go through our certified training. I bring all the supplies and equipment, and everybody gets their own feed rate control to tear down. We learn hands-on about sizing and things like that. So that's always another option for you. I cover the full state of Florida. I'm your regional manager, and we have another sales representative at Stenner nowadays. Her name is Ashley Flannery, and she is also working around the state right now with me, also conducting that certified Stenner technician training. So if anybody on this call or on this video conference would be interested, my contact information is going to be at the end of this presentation, and you are always welcome to call me, call, text, or email me at your convenience, as well as the main factory. They can get me in touch with you to make sure we get you scheduled if you're interested. So on to the training.
Mount the pump vertically with the pump head in a downward position, and never with the pump head pointing up, to keep solutions from collecting in the tube housing or seeping into the feed rate control and motor, which can seize the moving parts. With a vertical mount, the rain roof slides onto the mounting bracket to help protect the ventilated motor from water intrusion that can cause motor damage. The rain roof is recommended for outdoor environments and installation subject to washdowns. To help prevent chemical from collecting in the tube housing, which can cause the rollers and the roller assembly to seize and damage the tube, and to reduce spillage on the floor, a spill recovery can be set up using a section of the 1/4-inch suction discharge tubing inserted into the tube housing cover. The tubing will help drain chemical back to the tank in the event of tube failure. The suction and discharge lines are installed to the pump tube fittings with a compression-type seal consisting of the connecting nut and ferrule. The beveled end of the ferrule faces the tube fitting, and the suction and discharge line should bottom into the tube fitting. The connecting nut is secured into the fitting finger tight only, and not tightened with pliers or wrapped with thread seal tape. Pliers or thread seal tape should not be used because the pump tube fitting is secured to the tube material by an internal seal consisting of a crimped brass collar. And on some of the tubes, the brass collar is under a rubber collar. Using pliers will break the internal seal and cause the tube to leak, and using thread seal tape will interfere with the seat between the connecting nut and ferrule. If using 3/8-inch connections, keep the tube fitting stabilized and attach the female end of the adapter to the tube fitting. Slide the line through the 3/8-inch connecting nut and finger tighten to the male end of the adapter. If a leak occurs, gradually tighten the 3/8-inch connecting nut as required. The suction line should be 3 inches from the bottom of the solution tank to prevent picking up sediment. Sediment pulled through the suction line from the tank bottom can damage the pump tube and cause blockage or restriction in the check valve ductbill. The ductbill is used on applications above 25 psi. The insoluble sediments can create back pressure that exceeds the pump tube's pressure rating and will damage the tube. Install Stenner's weighted strainer on the end of the suction line and keep the suction line from the nose of the strainer to prevent blockage that could interfere with the pump's priming ability. With both the suction and discharge lines, allow slack so the pump tube fittings can flex to prevent stress on the pump tube and fittings. The slack helps reduce the chance for breaks on the tube fittings, causing leaks.
So that was a brief overview as the proper installation. And one of the most, a couple of things I wanted to cover before we move on to the weighted strainer here is the spill recovery. So that, we're going to do that in the next slide. My apologies. The tubes are what I wanted to bring to your attention. So all of our pump tubes are now completely overmolded. So the video section where it talked about an internal seal, that no longer applies. Luckily, about 8 years ago, the technology came out where we were able to mold our tube fittings as part of the actual Santoprene tube. So those are all one piece. You'll never have to worry about breaking that seal. But the important thing to know is that because they are all one piece, we want to always hold on to the tube fitting while finger tightening connecting nuts. That way we don't twist the body of the tube in the whole pump head, and that could cause it to run off center of the rollers and cause you an early tube failure. So as long as you hold on to the tube fitting while you're tightening the connecting nut, you'll never have any issues with that. So on to the weighted strainer. Our weighted suction line strainers are now molded as one piece as well. The video showed a little bit of an outdated weighted suction line strainer, but it's literally just a ceramic weight that we have molded in this plastic strainer to help try to keep debris out of your suction discharge tubing. So as we all know, there's a lot of junk in the bottom of your tanks, and it's just, common. It's welcome to the world of chlorine. There's nothing you can do about that other than trying to make sure you keep the weighted strainer up off the bottom of the tank. And then occasionally, if you have the opportunity to wash out your tanks and free it up of the bulk of debris, that's going to be important to do on occasion as well. If you can do those two things, you're doing the best you can to help prevent and slow down sediment clogs, which are going to be one of your biggest challenges working with pumping chlorine and working with water. Sediment clogs. Anything you can do to try to prevent that is a good thing. So the spill recovery, this might be new information to some of you guys. There's actually 2 notches on the front of the pump head faceplate. And those 2 notches to the left side of the pump head can be knocked out or drilled out, and you can take your 1/4-inch suction discharge tubing and it'll fit in that opening and run it. This picture shows it running directly to the tank. I prefer to run it out to a separate bucket because I don't want to create a chimney effect for fumes to get up from the chlorine or acid tank and cause you further damage in your pump head. But the spill recovery is a nice option, so that way should you ever experience a tube failure, your liquid has somewhere to go and it's not just sitting in the pump head causing further damage. So spill recovery, really good option that's built into the pump head for you if you choose to take advantage of it. So, of course, proper installation for all outdoor installations include the rain roof. These are open vented motors, so it's very important that we protect them, whether it be building your own shelter or utilizing the very reasonably priced rain roof that just slips into the bracket. So I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with that. Another note about outdoor installations is to be mindful of irrigation systems. So you may think that you've got it installed properly with your rain roof, but when you're not present at the job site, their irrigation system could come on, and that would likely be spraying your pump sideways. And if that's the case, then your rain roof's doing you no good. So be mindful of those kind of weird situations that happen out there in the commercial pool world. Look out for the environment where you're putting the pump. Some things may be out of your control, but you need to be aware of them. So move on to this here.
Hey everyone, Mitch here, and we are going to replace the tube on our Stenner Classic pump. First, we need to collapse the roller assembly and remove the tube.
Make sure the pump is off and the cord is unplugged. To remove the tube, the roller assembly needs to be collapsed. First, set the feed rate control to 10. Then, unlatch the latches and remove the tube housing cover. What you're going to do is align the 3 holes in the cover with the 3 knurled lugs on the roller assembly. Hold the feed rate securely and use the cover as a wrench and quickly snap, rotating the cover counterclockwise to collapse the roller assembly. Remove the pump tube. Never install a new tube without rinsing the housing and roller assembly and wiping it clean from any chemical residue. In addition, check the housing for cracks and check that the rollers rotate freely and are not seized. Replace the parts as needed. Now we will install the tube and expand the roller assembly. Check the feed rate ring and make sure it's set to 10. After removing the tube housing cover, place the new tube in the pump head. Use your fingers to center the tube over the rollers. Note that we aren't going to expand the roller assembly at this time. We'll do that later. Place the tube housing cover feet first on the tube housing. Attach the front of the latches to the cover lip, then snap the latches back to secure them. Now that the cover is latched, plug the pump in and turn it on. Allow the pump to run the roller assembly in its collapsed position about 2 minutes to relax the tube. Then, turn the pump off and unplug the power cord. Remove the tube housing cover and flip it over so you can use it as a tool to expand the roller assembly. The roller assembly needs to be expanded so the tube is pressed against the tube housing wall. Invert the cover and align the 3 holes in the cover with the 3 knurled lugs on the roller assembly. Hold the feed rate securely and use the cover as a wrench and quickly snap, rotating the roller assembly clockwise to expand it. The tube will now be pressed against the tube housing wall. Apply a small amount of aqua shield to the cover bushing only. Don't lubricate the pump tube. Place the tube housing cover feet first on the tube housing. Attach the front of the latches to the cover lip and press the latches back to snap securely. And that's it. Simple as that.
So that was a really good review of how to do a tube change. And I just wanted to cover a couple of key factors that most folks, when I'm out there doing training, the biggest thing I hear is that they don't know to set their dial ring to a 10. And just to let you guys know, we have to set that dial ring to a 10 to do the tube change process, because what that does is it engages the fan in the motor or locks the shaft. So that way you can actually collapse those rollers and then expand and lock them. Excuse me. If you try to do a tube change on a lower setting, sometimes you might get lucky and get successful, and other times you're going to be like, it's just turning, it's not expanding and locking or collapsing, and it's because you don't have that fan engaged in the motor. But if you just set your dial ring to a 10, that eliminates that worry. Now, if you're ever working with a fixed rate pump, I know they're not very common here in Florida on commercial pools, but some of you may have some. So if you have a fixed rate pump, you don't have a dial ring to set to a 10. So in that scenario, you want to use our fan brake tool, which is the white plastic piece that comes with all the tube fittings or the tube kits. When you order new tubes, that little white fan brake tool is included in there. Or you could use one of the latches on the pump head. You pull that out, there's a keyhole shape in the back of the motor, and you slip that latch in the back of the motor, and that can act as a fan brake tool as well. But most of you guys are not going to need a fan brake. You just need to set your dial ring to a 10. That's the most important thing to do. So certainly tube changes are part of our normal preventative maintenance when working with Stenner. So what we need to do is, on a commercial pool, a really good rule of thumb is to change our tubes every 6 months. You know, think about it. The tubes and the rollers are the real workhorse of your pumps. And if they lose their elasticity starting from day one when you install one. It's kind of like tires on a car. You know, over time, they lose their tread. In this scenario, they're going to lose their elasticity. And what happens when you pull out an old Stenner pump, you find that those pump tubes are really flat and rigid. You've lost your elasticity that gives you a good quality output. So by keeping a fresh tube in there every 6 months, we're going to ensure that we've got accurate delivery of the solution that you need to maintain your pool chemistry. So every 6 months is a good rule of thumb. These are some really good visual indications on the screen now. If I see the pump tube pressed up against the case and it looks like a teardrop, that's normal, and that's what I want to see. If I come up on a Stenner pump and it's an oval, that tube is wore out and needs to be replaced. And certainly if I ever see a diamond pattern, alert, alert, pressure is on the line. I probably have a clog at my injection point. I need to clear it or I'm going to have a tube failure. So excessive pressure is what that means. So some of the things that can affect your tube life certainly are a clogged injection point. You know, this is the number one thing to do for preventative maintenance on a chlorine installation. And it's not just the pool guys that have to deal with this. It's also the well water and municipal guys. Anybody pumping chlorine runs into calcification at the injection point. And what happens is you've got salts in your chlorine interacting with the hardness minerals in the water, and those work together to build that white rock of calcification at the injection point. And once it has built up at your injection point, you know, think about it this way, you know, your Stenner, it does not know that it has nowhere to go. It's going to keep working and pumping, but it's got nowhere to go. So it's pumping against a dead head and it's building back pressure until what's going to happen? We're going to have a tube failure. But if I can keep my injection point open and flowing, my Stenner's always got somewhere to pump that solution, and I'm never having that issue. So keeping the injection point open and flowing is really key to a successful chemical feed installation. And so our number 2 screwdriver actually fits the internal diameter perfectly of your injection fitting. And so you can use that weekly or bi-weekly, whatever routine and habit you can get into of checking that injection point. It's just important to put it on some type of a schedule. These are not set it and forget it applications. You'll notice too, out in the real world, you may have had experienced tube failures on your chlorine side, but your acid pumps never give you problems. Well, your acid pumps never clog. They don't experience calcification like your your chlorine injection does. So a couple of things to keep in mind there. Certainly seized rollers could cause you a tube failure. So every time we're doing a tube change, we need to pull out that roller assembly and inspect the rollers and make sure that they're moving, make sure they're nice and flat along the body of the roller. That's where we get our good pinch for an accurate output. And if they are seized, using warm soapy water to try to wash them out and loosen them up is one thing you can do. Otherwise, you need to replace your rollers. Certainly that would affect your tube life. No lubricant in the pump head whatsoever, except for that tiny bit on the bushing you saw in the video is always a good idea. Improper handling, you know, that just means if you've basically taken your flathead screwdriver and smashed your pump tube into the pump head, something like that, where you could have caused a cut along the body of the tube, you know, that could certainly give you a problem. And of course, excessive back pressure that goes along with possibly a clog developing at your injection point. So what's interesting is that the injection point doesn't even have to be completely blocked for it to have caused a tube failure. Sometimes it can be just partially blocked, but then you are still restricting the flow of your solution from going freely into that injection point. So that excessive pressure could still contribute to an early tube failure. Chemical incompatibility, certainly that's always something that could go wrong. Not really in the pool world. You guys, everything you all work with is chemically compatible on the chlorine, 12.5% and all of that, and certainly on all of your acid side as well. We do have some folks in the municipal world that use like 90% sulfuric acid, and that can run into chemical incompatibility issues. But you all in the pool market usually do just fine, no worries with that. Worn or damaged pump head certainly could cause an early tube failure. That means cracks, anything that causes too much flex, damage. You know, I'm sure you guys have seen some gnarly looking pump heads out there that have had a rough life. So those can certainly contribute as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and keep going.
Hi, we're back to present the maintenance section for the Classic Series single head adjustable pump. Before we get started, there's something that we need to cover, right, Karen?
That's right, Bill. Before working on a pump, always follow the complete safety and operating instructions in the installation and maintenance manual.
And don't forget the required personal protective safety equipment. Use of this safety equipment is mandatory.
In addition to the precautions that come with your pump, you must always follow the recommendations of the chemical manufacturer or the material safety data sheet, and check local codes for additional guidelines.
Preparing the metering pump for service can vary by application, but in general will consist of the following steps. Pump a compatible buffer solution through the pump for several minutes to clean the chemical from the lines. Turn the motor on-off switch to the off position, which is down or to the rear of the pump. Disconnect the suction line from the pump tube suction fitting labeled in the pump head cover. Before disconnecting the discharge side, bleed off any pressure. Then, disconnect the discharge line from the pump tube discharge fitting, labeled out on the pump head cover. Unplug the power cord. If the power cord plug end has been removed, modified, or the metering pump has been directly wired, do not continue. Consult an electrician to aid in disconnecting the pump from the electrical supply and to properly reconnect the pump's electrical supply.
The feed rate subassembly is unique to Stenner's peristaltic metering pump in that it is a mechanical control that controls the output.
The feed rate control utilizes a cam and spring-loaded lifter system to control the rotation of the roller assembly in the pump head, which adjusts the output according to the setting on the external dial ring. Inside the feed rate control is a brass spider assembly that consists of a pin and spring inside the holder attached to a lifter. When the pump is on, the spider turns. When the lifter drops into the feed rate control channel, the pin engages the index plate, which rotates the shaft extending through the roller assembly that squeezes the pump tube to dispense the solution. When the lifter rides on the cam, the pin disengages the index plate and the roller assembly does not rotate, resulting in no pumping action. For example, when the dial ring is set on the number 10 setting, the spider assembly is engaged in the index plate the entire time, which will turn the roller assembly the full circumference of the housing. At setting 10, the pump dispenses at its maximum capacity. When the dial ring is set on a lower setting, the pin in the spider is only engaged in the index plate for a short period of time before it is lifted out when the lifter reaches the cam. The roller assembly in the pump head will only turn for a fraction of the circumference, and the pump dispenses at a lower output determined by the setting on the dial ring.
The feed rate is a precision control that consists of mechanical parts that are subject to wear when the external dial ring is set at a lower setting. So the factory recommends selecting the pump model that is closest to the maximum output capacity within the requirements of the application. It is like the wear of brakes on a car, which is dependent on the operator's driving style.
When the feed rate control makes a skipping or ratcheting sound, or the pump output is less than what the setting indicates it should be, one or more of the parts may be worn. The cam, index pin lifter, and index plate work together, and one influences the performance of the others. At the lower dial ring settings, a longer section of cam is exposed to the rotation of the lifter. The lifter continuously riding on the cam can wear a groove in it. If the rounded point on the lifter arm flattens from wear, from riding on the cam, it may not fully lift the pin out of the index plate. The pin will make a ratcheting sound from dragging across the plate. The feed rate control will index inconsistently at different settings. A worn cam and/or lifter can cause the index pin to drag across the index plate and elongate its holes. The pin will skip across the holes and cause index malfunction.
At the beginning of the maintenance section, we reviewed installation points that best suit the pump. The vertical mount with the pump head pointing in the downward position is important for the feed rate control too.
Corrosive chemical intrusion can corrode the index pin and/or the lifter, causing them to seize. The feed rate will malfunction and the parts will need to be replaced.
With the modular subassemblies, a new feed rate can be snapped on quickly, but the parts are just as easy to replace.
To replace parts in the feed rate control, disconnect power to the pump. Separate the feed rate control and the pump head from the motor. Remove and set aside 3 screws, feed rate mounting plate, dial ring. When removing the dial ring, observe how the cam is installed. Then, remove the brass spider assembly. Remove the old cam and discard. If required, remove the index pin assembly by unscrewing with a box wrench and replace the index pin lifter. The index plate can be inverted to the other side or replaced. Clean out the feed rate control channel before installing the new cam. Aqua Shield to lubricate the cam's angled tip. Feed the angled cam tip into the feed rate control channel and keep the 90-degree end in the up position. Place a thumb over the cam to guide it as it is inserted in the channel. Continue to feed the cam in the channel until there is approximately a 1/2 inch gap between the cam tip and the beginning of the channel. Place the dial ring boss onto the cam's 90-degree end. While keeping the 90-degree end in the dial ring boss and the cam in the feed rate control channel, in a clockwise motion, place the dial ring onto the feed rate control housing and snap into place. Apply approximately 1 ounce of Aqua Shield to the bottom of the feed rate control housing and to the top of the index plate. Place the spider assembly on the index plate. The lifter tip should be positioned in the 1/2 inch gap in the feed rate control channel. To secure the mounting plate, align the plate arrow with the feed rate control housing arrow and install the 3 screws. If the screws are over-tightened, the dial ring can be difficult to turn. If the screws are too loose, the dial ring can be inadvertently turned to setting 10 by the motor.
Okay, guys, that was a really good overview of the wear items in the feed rate control as best as we can do virtually. But again, keep in mind we offer personal training and visits. So certainly if you'd like to schedule that, you can let us know. So when the feed rate is not indexing properly, it's important to check things like the variable cam. This cam can develop that deep groove, and then if it's got a deep groove, your lifter arm has lost its good lift of the pin, and so that would certainly cause an output or an indexing problem. The other wear item to consider is the lifter arm itself on the brass spider. So that lifter arm should have a slightly rounded edge, but over time, and we're talking on your much older Stenner pumps, those can actually flatten out and again cause you to lose that lift of the pin. So if you have an older pump and your cam and your plate look healthy and you're wondering what's going on, eyeball that lifter arm. It could have flattened out on you. And then, of course, the index plate, you know, over time of that carbide pin pounding up and down on the stainless steel plate, it can elongate those holes. And so that's very indicative when you come up on a Stenner pump and you hear it ratcheting instead of the good solid click like you're used to hearing from your Stenner. It's really a sign of a worn index plate. And a good tip is that that index plate has no right or wrong side. You can actually pull it up off of the bottom and flip it over for a fresh set of holes on the other side. And that's great for a temporary fix. But just make a note that that particular pump will need a new index plate the next time you're out servicing it, because you only get to flip it the once. But that's a really good trick. Certainly it'll help you in a pinch on a Friday afternoon. Flip the plate, you'll be off and running like new. So we do offer pre-built tank systems. So the pre-built tank systems come in 3 sizes, 7.5, 15, and 30 gallons. And they come in UV gray that you see here, or the white, or they call it natural color. The 15-gallon example I've got for you there is in white. So these tank systems are very nice because they come pre-assembled. So they're available for both the Classic series and the Econ pumps, which I'm fixing to introduce you to the Econ timer pump. But the tanks themselves are built very heavy duty. They don't blow over as easy outside. So they're certainly rugged, but yet they're lightweight enough for you to carry to the job site. So another thing that's really good about them is they have indicators built in on the mold. So there are line marks on the tanks themselves. The white one you can see through to the solution. The gray ones you can't see through them, but it does have level indicators built in on the outside. They do all come with a child resistant lid and a rain roof on the Classic series pumps. So these are excellent for a plug and play setup. If you need a new commercial pool installation, the tank system comes pre-built as you see it. We set up your suction line and weighted strainer for you in the tank. So you literally pull it out of the box, set up your injection point, and you're ready to roll. You just want to be mindful when you're pouring your solution in that you don't splash your pump and inadvertently cause any damage. So funnels are a good idea when you're working with the tank systems as well. So that is the Stenner tank system. Now, I wanted to introduce you into some of the newer pumps that we offer for the commercial pool market. The Econ T is a timer pump. And these are really a great supplemental pump for an enzyme program. If you're running anything that's like an Orinda, natural chemistry, low chlor type product, these are really nice. It has a liquid solar blanket. It's really good for that. Or phosphate removers if you've got any problem pools that you need to run with that. You know, the timer pumps have 24 separate events over 7 days. So what that means is I can program this pump to run every day at 8 a.m. for an hour. That's one timed event, but I get 24 of those I can program. I can set up a second timer for Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon for 10 minutes, or just running on Saturdays for 2 hours. So 24 events you can program individually. So you'll never run out of options with this little guy. It does have a battery backup. So the battery backup is nice. I prefer to program these in the shop, then unplug them, take them to the job site and plug them in, because the screen is rather small, so are the buttons. So try to program them in advance of your installation, and it just makes it a little bit more comfortable. But that is a nice supplemental pump for a commercial pool, enzyme program, phosphate removers, things like that. Really useful. It is outdoor rated. I should have mentioned that too. So these are outdoor rated when they are installed as you see it here, or as they come pre-built on a tank system, but they have to be installed vertically as you're seeing it here on the picture for it to be outdoor rated. So on to our newest product for you guys in the commercial pool market, most advanced metering pump, the S fixed or the S variable. So these came out in June of last year. They offer solid construction, some smart technology built into them, and the S fixed and S variable pumps come with leak detection. They have a backup pump capability, and they have LED light indicators on the control panel, which make it really nice too. I'm going to show you guys a little bit more about that. But it is kind of like in the classic series, there's a fixed model, and then there's the, what they call in this series, the variable. And we're going to look at both of those a little bit more. But the fixed would be just like the classic fixed in that you power it on and power it off. It runs at one speed. The variable has the potentiometer where I can control my output by turning that dial, what they call that little dial, the potentiometer there. So I'm going to let you guys watch this very short video giving you a good introduction now. Okay, so that kind of gave you guys a good overview about the new pump line. You know, these are newer to this market, but we have been making this style of pump for about 5 years for the municipal and the industrial market, and it has performed really well. And a lot of that is due to the fact that it is a totally enclosed motor. So this pump comes with a NEMA 4X rating, and what that means is it's rated for an industrial corrosive or an extreme weather environment, which I think sums up Florida pretty nicely. So that's a major bonus, is that it is fully sealed. It can go outdoor as is. It doesn't need any special rain roof. The LED indicator lights are nice so that as you're doing your regular maintenance, you can eyeball those and make sure everything is running with a quick look at the lights. It comes with a splined shaft instead of a D shaft. You know, our classic series are all D shaft. So this newer pump comes with a spline, and that means you get a much more accurate dosing. So the D shaft gives you on the classic series a 10-to-1 turn down ratio, but on these pumps, it's more accurate, delivering a 20-to-1 turn down ratio. So that's another bonus with this higher end offering of the S fixed or S variable. So output options available on this pump. Remember, we were talking about the double-headed pump earlier. Well, on this one, we actually have the option on a single pump to get all the way up to 150 gallons per day on these low pressure applications of no more than 25 PSI. High pressure up to 60 gallons per day. So the two different pump head options available on this pump, the S3 Quick Pro, that's what they call the standard size that you're used to seeing. And then there's the S4 Quick Pro, which is the larger beast of a pump head that will get you that 150 gallons per day in output. So even though this is the standard size pump head, it's not going to be interchangeable with your classic series because of that spline shaft and the built-in leak detection that is coming on the new pumps instead of course, you don't get that on the classic series. So the new pump tubes that go with the S4 pump head for the low pressure application is going to be the 5X pump tube. So you can see the difference between the regular number 5 tube and the 5X. Certainly they are longer. They also come with 3/8 suction discharge tubing fittings. So everything is standard 3/8 on the larger pump head. But this is going to be really good for your larger commercial pool applications, water parks, things like that. Anything that needs that high output, this is really useful and much easier to work with than a double-headed pump. Now, on the S fixed and S variable pumps, you get backup pump capability. This is great for any of your imperative applications. So maybe you take care of an aquatic center and every morning they have classes. If a pump were to go down overnight, it could foul up your chemistry and not allow those classes to happen the next morning. And that would, create some angry customers. Well, in this scenario, if I've got the S variable on the pump, on the pool, I've got them set up in a series. So I've got my main primary pump, and then I have it wired to a backup pump sitting just like it next to the other one. If pump A ever goes down, my primary pump, it would automatically kick on that backup pump, which is really nice. It creates that redundancy, so you always have that peace of mind. You'll never have a pool go down due to no chemical feed. So outputs, relays that are built into this is certainly the leak detect that will do just what we described, run and transfer. So if you have more advanced controllers that will accept those type of relays to tell you if the pump is running or that you can transfer between two pumps, these relays are pre-built into every single pump if you have a controller that will do it. But the leak detect automatically comes on every single pump. The output relay would start a new pump should a pump go down due to a leak. Certainly the LED indicator lights are very useful. There's a light for the run or fault, standby, leak, and certainly a power light so you know you're getting power to the pump. So on the S variable models, all you have is a potentiometer to turn instead of the big dial ring like we've got on the classic series where it's a mechanical feed rate control that you learned about earlier. Now we have this potentiometer to turn your dial on and off. So it's not mechanical. Think of this pump as more of a computer. So it's going to slowly increase in speed, or as you turn your dial down, it'll slow down. It does not run and pause like you get out of a classic series. So that's kind of a nice feature. So gradually increase the speed all the way to 100%. Now, in the classic series, we always encourage you to try to run those pumps at a higher number on the dial ring. That makes those wear items in the feed rate control live a lot longer, happier life. But on this pump, because it's not mechanical, if you wanted to run it at the lowest setting, you could do that all day long. No negative effect to your pump whatsoever. So the LED indicator lights I tried to simulate here. So there's a light for a run, fault, and then the standby and off, and then leak and power, of course. So solid green is when the pump is running and it's not in dry fault. Blinking red is if you're having an issue and if it's got a fault on it. Solid red means the pump is receiving, it's receiving a closed contact, so it's in standby mode, and a blinking red is when the potentiometer is set to off. And then the leak is blinking red whenever there's a leak detected, and certainly power stays solid green as long as you've got it connected to power. So that is the new S variable model. It came out in June of last year. Nothing like a global pandemic to help you release a new product. So hopefully we're helping get the word out nowadays about the new pump. And certainly I'd love to come by and give you a live demonstration of it if you'd be interested. That's certainly what we do. Now, here is all of our contact information on this last slide. I encourage you guys to contact us directly if there's anything you need. Keep in mind, Ashley and I are running around the state offering that free technical training called the Certified Stenner Technician Training Program. Again, it takes about an hour. If you're interested, let me know. And what I'll do is I'll reach out to you in advance of our next trip to that area. And one of us, Ashley or I, will get in contact with you to schedule a time that works for you when we're heading your direction. So we do have great tech support at our factory. I always like to bring to your attention that our 800 number or our number directly on the pump goes to our factory here in Jacksonville, and we do not have an automated phone system. So when you call Stenner, you'll actually get a warm body in Jacksonville. Her name's Bridget. She'll get you to the first available tech support person that can assist you. They can help identify part numbers, troubleshoot a pump on the phone. They now have the ability with iPads in the tech department, so they can actually FaceTime you, WhatsApp, whatever you call it, Messenger. There's a lot of different options. Whatever type of video call, they will be able to video call you through those iPads and to help you identify what's going on and get your pump up and running virtually that way. So we also have a lot of information on our website at stenner.com. You can download, output charts, catalogs, service manuals, anything that you might need there. And we also have a YouTube channel that has a lot of our training videos on there. So if it's been a while since we've talked about training or that you've gone through the training, you can jump on our YouTube channel and watch a refresher of how to work on the feed rate control or how to do a tube change or whatever it is you're working with that day. And then certainly we are on and active on LinkedIn. So I encourage you to link up with myself and link up to the Stenner Pump Company main page. So that way you can get all the latest information as any new product or updates are released, and some behind the scenes footage as well. So that is all I have for you guys today. I'm going to open up the floor and I welcome your all's questions now.
So anybody that has questions, go ahead and unmute yourself. So if you have any questions, you can unmute yourself. You'll have to go up into the little corner and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask Cindy any questions you have from the training today.
Training's more fun in person, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a little hard, challenging to do. I'm so used to hands-on training. It's always a challenge on the virtual. So hopefully
anybody have any questions for Cindy about Stenner pumps?
Or if you don't want to do it here, you're welcome to call me after the class. That's fine too.
I'll just give them a minute, see if people are trying to figure out how to unmute. And if they don't, then certainly contact Cindy, ask her your questions directly that way. You can use the chat window down at the bottom or top somewhere. There's a chat window. You can certainly chat in your questions as well.
Price difference.
There we go. Somebody have a question?
Yeah, what's the price difference in them pumps?
Oh, great question, Mr. Marshall. So certainly it's a higher end offering, the S fixed and S variable. List price for a classic adjustable is about $600. List price for these newer pumps are about $1,450. So they are definitely a little bit pricier. They do come with a 2-year warranty instead of our standard 1-year warranty. So you definitely get that as an advantage. And we are running a Try Me program. So if you wanted to bring one pump in, one of the new pumps, and test it out, I can help you with the Try Me program as well. Basically, you can purchase it direct one time at a deep discount to bring one of those pumps in and put it in the field and see what you think of it for yourself. So I can help you with that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions out there?
Good question.
That was a good question.
You can ask.
Well, anybody want to ask a question? All right.
Just one more, just one more from me. You say that you do the on-site training. Could that be arranged in California?
Excellent question. Yes, sir. We definitely have people like me all over the country. I am in Florida. We've got David Malina, who's based out in Las Vegas now. He used to be in California. He just recently moved out to the Las Vegas area, but he covers the West Coast. And so if you're interested in training out there, no problem. I just need to get your information over to David Malina, who is our guy out there. He can help arrange that for you. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
But we definitely have folks like myself all around the country.
Right. Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Their in-person training is awesome. She came out to our local health department and did the hands-on training of taking apart and doing the whole certification bit with our local pool contractors, where I set up that training, and she came out, and that was like 10 years ago. She's been doing this for a while.
Right.
So
something we're definitely interested in.
Yeah.
Perfect. Will you reach out to me after this class, and we'll make sure to get your information.
No problem. Thank you.
And definitely, guys, with the shortage in trichlor, this is definitely an advantage to be able to switch over to liquid chlorine instead of having only cal hypo erosion feeder, which then increases calcium hardness. It does feed an unstabilized chlorine product. And liquid chlorine is pretty easy to get at most of your distributors. It's just the customer understanding the upfront cost of the Stenner pump. But after that, you wouldn't have any issues with cyanuric acid buildup or anything like that. You would have control over your cyanuric acid.
Okay. Right.
So it gives you options. There's options out there that you got to look at as we head into possible shortages and stuff like that. That's kind of why I brought Cindy in, because I knew their pumps feed liquid chlorine, and then you'd have your acid feeder if you needed an acid feeder.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
All right. Well, we're going to end the training now, and thank you very much, Cindy, for being on today. It was very informative.
Thank you guys for participating. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And you guys all have a wonderful day.